Gary, very much thank you for having us. I'm really excited to be here, to be able to speak to you guys about the innovation in lending or innovative lending as a whole. Throughout our conversation today, we'll touch upon three core segments, the past trends and the market disconnect, the pillars of innovation, and really what's needed next in Canada to get this segment to scale. Now, focusing very specifically on small business, historically, what's happened to a small business when they've applied for financing, when they've gone in to get financing? They've been declined. For decades, this specific segment has always been underserved. There's really been a misunderstanding or a disconnect around how to really evaluate a small business from a credit perspective, and then a mismatch in terms of the various products that have been sold to them. This is one of the fundamental reasons of why OnDeck was founded as a company, to be able to evaluate a small business on their actual performance, leveraging enhanced data capabilities, which enable us to provide a frictionless, personalized customer experience. Now, we take a look at the U.S. The U.S. over the last decade has gone through some of the most gravitational changes within digital and online lending. Our first decade as an operating business is OnDeck. We've gone from having very limited and low levels of customer awareness to now having been able to deploy more than $10 billion globally of small business loans. The U.S. online lending segment is now really entering the mature phase. So you're starting to see some of the larger players decrease their cost of capital, focus on larger institutional partnerships, focus on finding the operating efficiencies within their business to drive profitability, and most importantly, focus on creating the next wave of innovative financial products. Canada, on the other hand, is really a tale of two stories. The Canadian online lenders, including OnDeck, have done a really good job in starting to hit some scale. Canadian lenders now have dedicated facilities. You're starting to see an increase in partnerships. You're starting to see a lot more product innovation overall. Collectively, the Canadian online small business lenders have deployed more than $1 billion of small business loans over the number of years. And this demonstrates a great level of demand for this specific asset class within the Canadian marketplace. However, the level of fintech adoption in Canada has lagged the rest of the world for a number of reasons. And for Canadian online and digital lenders to really hit the next phase of scale, creating that level of awareness is extremely critical for corporate growth. And now let's talk a bit more about OnDeck. Sorry, about small business. We can talk about OnDeck too, but small businesses really are they're the backbone of our economy. Small businesses comprise about 98% of private corporations in Canada. They employ 70% of the labor force within the private sector. They contribute 30% to national GDP. But yet, if you take a look at the chart over here, what you're going to find is that there's an extremely wide negative dispersion between the level of GDP growth in small business and the level of debt capital deployed or loan growth for small business. Granted, some provinces have figured it out, but if you look very specifically at Ontario and Quebec, Ontario has a negative 18% rate of loan growth from 2008 to 2016, whereas GDP growth in small business has been 11%. Quebec, on the other hand, has a negative 24% rate of loan growth, whereas GDP growth has been 23% overall. And this represents the critical opportunity for all of us as alternative lenders, and once again demonstrates how underserved this specific segment has been for such a period of time. And now the market disconnect. How many people here are from banks? Okay, that's awesome. Great. So for years and for decades, there really has been a disconnect between what customers want and what traditionally they've been offered. Customers want access anytime, anywhere. They want it to be seamless. They want the application process itself to be easy, and they want to have an exceptional customer experience. Now, if we look at traditional lending is legacy. It's based on legacy architecture, requires lots of information. It's a manual-based process to adjudication. requires a high credit score. These are all the problems that innovative lending has solved. Innovative lending is seamless, it's anytime, it's anywhere, and most importantly, it's best of breed customer experience. Now, there are many pillars of innovation. In the context of this conversation, we'll touch upon three of them: customer experience, cultural change, and the power of data and automation. Customer experience is the new battleground for customer acquisitions and loyalty. Customers want to be the masters of their own journey, banking at a time, at a place, and a mechanism that is convenient for them. We as organizations are continuously being defined by the level of service and experience that we deliver to customers. And very frankly speaking to all of you, Apple and Amazon really have raised the bar for all of us across all industries. Customers now expect to have the same journey, whether they're applying for a loan, buying a mobile device, or even getting a book. For us to scale and for organizations to scale, the experience itself, it needs to be frictionless, it needs to be seamless, it needs to be personalized. A one-size-fits-all approach does not work. From an online lending perspective and from an OnDeck perspective, just because it's online doesn't mean it's not personal. You can leverage enhanced consumer data analytics to really drive that customized interaction. And most importantly, you need to be innovative. It needs to be a game-changing customer experience, and new products are definitely a factor of this. By having new, differentiated, innovative products, you'll continue to drive that customer experience, which will continue to drive the adoption and change needed within the Canadian marketplace. An important factor into having enhanced customer experience is partnerships. The creation of ecosystems that really provide an end-to-end seamless customer journey overall, having key touch points across various verticals, such as banking, accounting, payments, point of sale. All of these will really enhance the customer experience, which will in turn continue to drive that change. And speaking of that change, cultural change is extremely critical for Canada. Historically, we've lagged the rest of the world when it comes to the adoption rates itself. According to a recent survey done by Ernst & Young, they found that only 18% of Canadian respondents had used two fintech services over the last 6 months, compared to 33% at a global level, 33% in the US, 42% in the UK, and not on this slide, but 69% in China. Australia is a great example for Canada. Australia is now growing at a faster pace of fintech adoption compared to most global markets. It's actually outpacing the growth of the US itself. And what this means for Canada is that, according to EY, within the coming years, adoption rates will increase above 34%. And from an online lending perspective, as we as collective lenders continue to drive disruptive, innovative products, that customer experience will continue to be enhanced. And once again, we will continue to push change within Canada. Now, the key ingredient to drive that best of breed customer experience and that change is the power of data and automation. Historically, commercial lending has been a manual, documentation-based, subjective, inefficient process that takes weeks to a matter of months to actually get capital deployed. By leveraging data harmonization, strategic automation, and really analysis to factor into innovation itself, will continue to drive that change. Elements of data and automation that can be leveraged to streamline your process are examples such as customer experience and journey. Leveraging data and analytics to really drive that personalized customer experience, focusing on your acquisition and your revenue channels, and making on-the-fly business adjustments. From a credit decisioning perspective, leveraging the power of data and algorithmic analysis to create those models that allow you to have real-time decisioning, models that are self-learning, and models that are able to examine pools of data that traditionally have not been used in commercial finance to find predictive indicators. Having auto adjudication. Having an auto adjudication model itself allows for a better customer experience and overall reduces your operating costs as well. And lastly, risk management. leveraging enhanced data analytics from a pure portfolio management approach to having that institutional approach to understand what your risk parameters are. In terms of what's needed from a small business perspective, more innovative personal products, products that are tailored to the customized needs of individual customers, having that frictionless customer experience, and having ecosystems that enable partnerships that provide an end-to-end seamless customer journey. And then from an industry perspective, what's needed to drive innovation and scale, industry-led conducts and standards, such as the Smart Box, positive credit bureau data for micro businesses, open banking and adoption would be a game changer for all of us, having real-time access to government data, and increasing capital markets acceptance or Canadian capital markets acceptance of online loans as an asset class. Just to leave you guys with a parting thought, Canada's already there in terms of the innovation that we're doing. As a collective group, what do we need to continue to drive that change in Canada? And thank you all for your time. Hopefully you enjoyed that.
Yeah, no, it's great.